Very good.
Careful that you're grabbing at the top here. Click on it. There you go.
God, you're a genius.
Dick, it's officially 6:30.
Okay.
All right, we 1 second.
All right.
Eddie did that.
I've almost have it streaming here.
All right.
So we're streaming right now, but I got to send it to Laura to put on the website.
Yeah.
I've almost have it streaming. So we're streaming right now, but it's Laura to put on the website.
Hey, Eddie, we
Yeah.
got about a 10-second audio delay that's coming back also.
Yeah, that was the YouTube video, I think.
Okay.
That you were hearing. So let's see here.
I've lost.
Okay, so we're recording. It is live streaming, and I haven't gotten confirmation from Lori yet, but give me 2 seconds here. I'll get it.
All right.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, okay, yeah, move them up and
He's
down.
gonna end up working.
Right,
that
1,
whole
2, 3. Okay,
thing.
that way you get that. That way everybody goes up or down, right? Okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks.
Okay. All right. We're posted. We're ready to go.
All right. Meeting is called to order. First order of business is on behalf of the zoning commission. I'd like to congratulate Susan Freed as the newest full zoning commission member. Congratulations, Susan.
Thank you. I'm happy to be official part of the group now.
You are now official. At this point, I'll turn it over to Eddie McCarthy to administer the rest of what's going on unless he calls upon me to do something.
Sure.
Eddie, if you will.
Yeah. So the first thing, just the ground rules. So for anyone who is just on the phone participating, and it doesn't look like there is anyone right now, if you want to raise your hand to be recognized by the commission, you'll press *9. If you are participating on the computer, what you'll do is you will press the raise your hand button on your participant panel. Otherwise, what we've done is, if somebody urgently needs to speak, of course, at any time, go for it. But we also have, of course, a public participation spot on our agenda to specifically open the floor. And I think maybe out of an overabundance of caution, if we see someone in the meeting who wants to speak, just try and yield to them a little bit and just see if they're interested. But otherwise, I'm ready to do roll call if you guys are.
Eddie, one quick question. Where's the raise your hand button at? Which one is the raise your hand button? I'm looking down at the bottom there.
Yeah, the same with me, Eddie. I don't have it. I've got a chat. I don't know if that's it.
Yep. Yeah.
That's the
So
thing.
on your toolbar, if you scroll over your toolbar, which is either at the bottom of your screen or the top, you'll click on participants.
Yeah.
I see.
You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the participant panel will pop up, and at the bottom of that, there's a raise your hand function. So we actually lost Mr. Campbell. He was in the meeting, and he looks like he
Yeah.
No,
is out.
Reaction.
Okay. Reactions. Okay, got it.
Well, actually,
So I'm going to see if Mr. Campbell
I didn't give you the raise the hand thing.
is available.
No, chat.
All right. But I see the reactions and thumbs up. How do I get rid of this?
Well, yeah, you can close.
Hey, Dick, if you click on the very bottom where it says participants,
Yep.
you click on that multi-head person, click on it one time. You should get a second small screen that opens with all of our names
I
on
see
it.
it. I see that, Jeff.
And then at the very bottom, on the bottom right of that, it says raise hand.
No, I'm not seeing it.
I'm not seeing that either. I got a way to do it.
Okay.
A different way, but it'll get done.
Okay.
Loretta showed me something called reactions on the bottom bar there, and you can do it that way.
Yeah, it doesn't have a, though, for some reason.
Well, if you do that, it does. There you go.
Mhm.
Well, it has a thumbs up.
Well, there's the hand.
Well, that's clapping.
Oh, clapping. Oh, geez. Okay. Wow. All right. I'll get that off of there. I'll get
Hey, Mr. Campbell, can you hear us?
that off of there.
Yes, I can, Eddie.
All right, excellent. All right, so we're back in business.
No.
Yeah.
Ready for roll call?
Yes,
Yes.
Okay. Campbell,
Present?
Reedy,
Here.
Schuler,
Here.
Shadwell,
here.
and Stitt.
Here.
Okay, so we have a quorum. And
Yeah.
we have the American flag up here for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Whenever you're ready.
I pledge allegiance to the flag
Flag
of the
of the
United States of America,
And
to
to
the
the
republic
Republic.
which it stands,
And
One nation.
one nation, under God,
God.
indivisible, with
Liberty
liberty and justice for all.
Thanks for standing.
Okay. All right, so at this point, Mr. Schuler, if you want to swear in anyone who wants to participate in the public hearing, I think that we can do that.
Eddie, before we do that, I got on my agenda number 4 to approve the meeting.
Oh,
minutes,
sorry.
March 3rd. Have we had a chance to look at that, everybody?
yes,
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes
Second?
from
Anybody
the March
second it?
3rd meeting.
All right,
I'll second that.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Opposed? All right, so those are officially approved then. And at this point, I have some instructions from the chair that states, anyone who wishes to speak during this public hearing, whether it's an applicant, staff, and the public, must be sworn in. We will allow the public to speak at the appropriate time during this hearing following receipt of the staff report, presentation, and questions from the, it says trustees, but I'm sure that means commissioners. So if anyone is going to speak at this meeting, Eddie, can you give the oath? I
Sure.
don't actually have the oath here.
I'll need to be sworn in as well.
You'll need, okay, well, who is going to speak at the meeting? I won't be speaking at the meeting. All right. Eddie, Jeff, you going to speak?
Possibly, in the past, it's only been the general public that had to be sworn in because
Sworn
we
in,
were
right.
always considered sworn in by being on the zoning commission.
Okay, fair enough. So it would just be the applicant, which is us though.
Yeah, and myself too, for good measure.
Yeah,
So,
since we're
But
the
it-
applicant. All right, well, raise your right hand. Do you solemnly, everyone who's going to speak, do you solemnly swear that what you're about to say at the hearing tonight is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth on your oath?
I do.
I do.
I
I
do.
do.
All right. So done. I'll turn it over now to Mr. Eddie McCarthy, who is going to speak to the new business, the public hearing on ZC 2020-02. Mr. McCarthy, if you will.
Okay, thank you. And so the application that we have before us here was initiated by the zoning commission. It is zoning code case 2020-002. It's Amelia neighborhood zoning text and map amendment application. It's a brief history. On November 2019, Amelia Village dissolved. Along with the dissolution, their zoning regulations also went defunct at that time. In March 2020, the zoning commission made a motion to initiate the application to adopt zoning regulations as well as the land use plan for the former village of Amelia territory. Now, in April of 2020, the Clermont County Planning Commission recommended approval of the enclosed application materials. And as you have in your application in your application packet a letter from Mr. Taylor Corbett confirming on Tuesday, April 28th, the Planning Commission voted to recommend approval of the materials presented in ZC 2020-002, which included the Amelia Village Comprehensive Plan and associated text and map amendments as initiated by the Pierce Township Zoning Commission. Now, just a general overview, because we've been over most all of this multiple times already, but nonetheless, what you have in your packet is you have a schedule of modifications, which essentially goes through and says, here are all the kind of the major highlights, things that have been changed, that sort of thing. And as far as the actual specific sections and references that have been changed, you can see here on the PowerPoint slide a description of the various different items. So number one is the Village Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Now, per ORC 519, in order for a township to pass zoning, we need to have land use plan for that area. So as a precaution and as statutorily required, we're adopting the Amelia Village Land Use Plan, which it's a bit old. It's from the early 2000s, but it does give us some general guidance, and it was guidance that also inspired a number of the changes that are prescribed in the text that we have now. And keep in mind, the text that we have now is basically a distilled version of the former village's existing prior regulations, and so it had to be formatted to be able to append to our Pierce Township regulations. You'll also see in your packet the Pierce Township zoning map. The official map now will include, let's see here. The official map now includes the Amelia territory, which you can see on your slides now. All of this area. I don't know. Can you see the mouse? Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Yep. So you can see the various different, the territory of Amelia that is now just part of or proposed to be part of our existing zoning map at this point. And as far as major changes, some of the names of some of the districts changed and some of the uses changed. We'll get into that a little bit more, but for the sake of, as far as the map is concerned, the substantive changes are Shank and Grove Park, as well as the library and the post office, are now in the Amelia Public Institutional Zoning classification, which allows government uses and parks, things of that effect. In Amelia, there was no zoning whatsoever for parks, for example. So that was one of those items where we felt that it was good to get some base regulatory framework in place there. The other zone map amendment that is slightly different is a parcel at the corner of Maple and Oak Street, which, if you can see zoomed in here, it's this red portion in the hatch. That parcel had a portion of Amelia R2 on it, which would allow multifamily, and the whole parcel is now just Amelia neighborhood at this, as proposed, which is a commercial district. The Amelia neighborhood zoning regulations are in your packet. They begin with the index, and they will be starting at Article 17 of our particular zoning resolution. So we'll have our zoning resolution, and
Eddie, excuse me.
Yep.
At this point, Jeff raised his hand, and I didn't know whether that would be something that would be appropriate for now, or that you'd prefer to continue.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Please interject.
All right.
My question, Eddie, is there a game plan in the future once we get through this phase of the amendments to change the name of their zoning to more be in line with our names?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. And where we are right now, and I'll just be real quick on it. We're finishing up 125 corridor study that we've been doing in conjunction with Kleinger's and Jay Stewart. And part of the next project that appears to be in the pipeline is a study of the downtown area of Amelia, so that we can get a plan in place to address some of the issues going on in their downtown area in general, get familiarized with the area, and potentially affect some changes to their regulations to further implement them in. Now, if that means that the districts may change, that they may change, we're going to study it and determine what the most seamless way to address it is going to be. One of the unique characteristics about Amelia, of course, is that it was really on the cusp of being a city, and that it's a bit dense. Some of the characteristics of the community are a little different than the rest of Pierce. So those are all things that we'll all be wrestling with to figure out, what's the best way to help Amelia residents and Pierce residents, make the most of, our new neighborhood, so to speak. So
Okay.
that'll be part of the discussion. That's a good point. So just really quick, I just wanted to hit on some of the major highlights. I mean, there's a lot to take in, understandably, with this, but some of the major highlights I just wanted to hit really quick. You can see a listing. The sign regulations, for the most part, landscaping, buffering, these various different standards, definitions. For the most part, a lot of it's just Pierce. It's just Pierce regulations, Pierce process. For the PUD, it's going to be the Pierce process moving forward, just so that we don't have, multiple different processes for putting a fence up or building a home, those sorts of things. So all that stuff is just kind of going to process generally is going to Pierce. So for example, site plan reviews are going to be primarily administrative. The only difference is Amelia's downtown district. So they have a downtown district, his downtown historical district, which I'll show you really quick here. So on this map, if you see that black hatched area, it goes from Floral on the east up to Oak/Jenny Lind here, that area is their downtown historical district, and site plans that go through their historical overlay area are going to be going to you guys for review, because they have some unique standards that we'll get into shortly in a second here. So some of the other changes, a lot of their, for example, their downtown district, we've removed auto repair, body shop repair, auto sales, that sort of thing out of their downtown district, just to allow them to focus a little bit more on pedestrian-oriented sort of uses in their downtown. A lot of the auto-oriented uses are more in their suburban district, which is their kind of more on the outskirts of their downtown, so to speak. Their Amelia suburban district is a lot more like our general business district. Single-family dwellings are no longer going to be permitted in their commercial districts along their main street. We've allowed for a little bit of flexibility with regard to expansions for people who already have homes, but as far as new single-family dwellings being built in their commercial district, that generally it's not supported by their comprehensive land use plan. It's not really supported by our plan either. I think it was kind of a holdover, but so those are some of the other items.
Eddie, a quick question.
Sure.
Instead of raising my hand. You're not going to allow single family, you said, in the downtown, or we will no longer. What happens if a person has a single family in that existing area? Obviously, they're grandfathered in. What happens if they have a fire and the house burns 80%?
Right.
Will they be permitted to rebuild it as a single family, or is there going to be some verbiage in there that says, hey, up to a certain point, they can no longer rebuild there?
It's a good question. So we put in there.
I got two good questions tonight, guys.
Yeah, right. Betting 1,000.
You're done for the
So
year, Jeff.
There's two points to that. One answers your question. The other one is related and just needs to be said. So what we have put in to allow flexibility is 25% expansion. So if someone who has a house in that existing circumstance, they'll be allowed to expand their house, put on a small addition. That's not greater than 25% of the existing structure. That's just understanding that people that they've been there for a while. We just don't want the proliferation of new dwellings coming up. Now, as far as your question with regard to the 80%, so any structures
Or
damaged,
any percent, Eddie, just
yeah, right,
how's that going to be handled?
sure. Well, in the worst case scenario, in the event that we'll just say the whole house is down, even 80% plus the whole house, the process that they would follow is the Pierce Township process for non-conforming structures, where they would basically go to the Board of Zoning Appeals if they wanted to rebuild that structure. And the Board of Zoning Appeals would weigh in and make the determination as to whether or not that was reasonable. They're complying closely with existing regulations. Generally speaking, that it would seem that a reason why someone might not be approved is if it was a real obnoxious use or something to that effect, and it's gone, and you don't want to keep But as far as residential uses go, it's usually not the case. But
Okay.
they would be able to go to the BZA.
All right,
Okay.
just curious.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd like to interject something there too, along the lines of Jeff's question. It was my understanding that there's some zoning provisions, I'm not saying in Pierce, but that you have a certain amount, rather than a percentage of destruction of the non-conforming use, it's more along the lines of how much time you have to rebuild to where it was. For instance, if a house did burn to the ground, it was raised. If you start construction again, say within 3 to 6 months or whatever, and get it rebuilt, that would be in quotes okay. But if you let it sit for 3 years as a vacant lot and then decided to rebuild, you might be out of time. Is there anything in ours like that, or is that just something the BZA would have to consider?
There is. I don't have the exact regulation in front of me right now. I can pull it up if you'd like. Ultimately, though, any decision of the administrator can be appealed to the BZA regardless. Right. So, but if you want me to get that regulation, I can pull that up for you.
No. I think that satisfies my end of Jeff's question.
Yeah, you took care of mine as well. Like I said, I just had that question. Just
okay,
it popped
great.
up because of someplace else that I was aware of and just wondered.
Oh, absolutely. And I hate to say this, but this is a bit of an undertaking, and we're doing it to get something on the books so that we don't have this moratorium that just runs indefinitely. And so as Mr. Stitt pointed out, I mean, the importance of diving in and studying this area over a good period of time and then addressing the regulations it's going to be an important thing to do. It's probably, I'm anticipating that, some people are going to be ecstatic about some of the changes. And some people are going to be frustrated that now they've got to comply with a Pierce way of doing certain things when they were used to doing it the Amelia way. So there are going to be things like that, conceivably. We've tried to be sensitive to that, but actually the next topic that I have is something that I wanted your guys, it's pretty important. I wanted to make sure that I had your guys' full input on this. And it pertains to the architectural design standards for non-residential buildings. So the way that it's proposed now is, I'll back up. In Pierce Township, if you build a new commercial structure, just in a commercial district, you have to comply with the architectural design standards.
Standards, right.
And there are certain things where it's basically, there can't be long expanses of uninterrupted building facade, like just a brick for 75 feet straight, sort of things like that. The entryways need to have some ornamentation, things like that. And those are they're Amelia has similar regulations for their downtown overlay district, that little hatched area between Floral and Jenny Lind, that area in there, Maple. But the remainder of Amelia does not have architectural regulations. So the draft that you're looking at right now basically says the only architectural regulations that'll be enforced in Amelia are the ones that they already have on the books or had on the books in their downtown. So other areas that are outside of their downtown area would not have to comply with any architectural design standards. And that was kind of my understanding, and I wasn't able to find much on our discussion about it. It was one of those, they didn't have them in place. So it might be a little presumptuous to put those sorts of standards on them if they've already, because it's as if they made a decision before to say, look, we just want architectural standards in our downtown. We're not trying to put it all over any commercial property. But I could be wrong. And of course, if you guys feel strongly about just applying the architectural standards as we do throughout the rest of Pierce, then we can make that change. It's not, it's a minor tweak to the regs. But I wanted to get your input on that.
If I might, my suggestion is, again, we're trying to make this all uniform as best we can. I think we all understand that it can't be 100% uniform, but as close as possible. And I think if you make a deviation in the whole previous village of Amelia, that's creating a larger deviation than if we just do it in the downtown area. I think we all understand that downtown area is unique, if you would, but that doesn't mean that the rest of what was the village has to remain unique. I personally would rather see everything else conform to the way Pierce is.
Okay.
With the exception of that downtown area.
Stanley raised his hand.
Yeah, I'd like to see that as well. I would like to see it conform to what's been our standard regulations for appearance, because you always have the option as the administrator of saying, we can, I'll bring it to the zoning commission, and just that they may very well say, we'll let this one pass because it's next door to an existing property that doesn't have the same sort of standards. But if you've got it in there, at least they have to come and ask or show you their sample.
Exactly.
I agree with those comments. Susan?
Yeah, I agree as well. I think we need to put some standards in place rather than just let people continue doing whatever they want.
Okay, I'm glad I brought that up. So the draft that you have in front of you right now is the one that basically, it's kind of almost like the quote unquote status quo for the architectural regs. Right. So what I will do is if you approve this application to go before the Board of Trustees, what I will do is in my kind of cover letter in explanation to the Board of Trustees, they will be advised that this is one of the changes that you recommended be modified from the document that the planning commission saw this, didn't have any issue whatsoever, had an affirmative recommendation. So this change, I will codify it, I will put it into the document, and then there's really not much that needs to be changed. It's just a couple words, but I will advise the trustees.
What are you going to call that that's going to need modification?
So the way that it was going to be implemented now was in Article 9.03, if you can see that here, this portion here.
Okay.
In 9.03 is actually, that's in the existing Pierce Township zoning regulations. So a lot of the changes that we were doing, in order to apply certain regs in Amelia, it was one of those, we're applying, they're enforceable by reference. And so 9.03 was basically saying architectural standards are applicable except for designated portions of Amelia, for example. And so what I'll do is I'll just take that out. And so what'll happen is the reference will basically only exempt the downtown area of Amelia, because downtown Amelia, the historical Amelia has its own architectural standards, like its own, separate from the rest of Amelia. So outer, like greater Amelia, like we'll just say, the suburban Amelia, if you will, the non-downtown portion, will comply with Pierce architectural regulations, but the downtown Amelia will continue with their downtown overlay district architectural standards. That makes sense.
Yeah, I'm making notes, as you know, I always do. And I just put a rude note that, if the approval goes through, it would be to modify the 9.03 reg to apply all architectural standards to that of Pierce for all of the old village of Amelia, with the exception of the downtown area. If that meets your criteria.
Yeah, that's exactly, yep.
Okay.
Okay, great. So I've got that noted here. I'll make the change if that's how, you guys decide to vote. Let's see here, what else I've got. The only other changes from the planning commission meeting to now, from April until now, were what I call they're really not material. We removed the word ordinance because there were a couple holdovers, and the word is now resolution. Went from ordinance to resolution, because in townships we have resolutions, not ordinances.
Was that mixed throughout?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
It was a number. It was in 2 or 3 locations, but I keyword searched it through the document and just pulled it wherever I found it.
Okay.
And we were having some trouble with the header formatting, so that the headers and everything, we're going to try and match it. Again, this is not material. It's just a matter of how the document looks. We're going to try and match the headers to the existing Pierce document. But based off of, if more changes came from this body and that sort of thing, it's a lot more work to keep going back to it. So Laura and I just kind of, we put it on the back burner for a minute. We're going to make the document it'll look from a material perspective just like the Pierce Township regs. So that was the only other thing.
And I think, Eddie, at one time I asked, once this is all finalized, their zoning and whatnot, it will be incorporated and intermixed into our zoning book that we currently have, correct? We will not carry 2 books, the old village and the Pierce.
That's right. Yep. So
Okay.
Our current ends at Article 16, and Amelia starts at Article 17.
So it'll all start there. Gotcha.
Yep. And then
Okay.
we'll append their maps to the back. It'll be we're trying to make it flow, so we're definitely on the same page there.
All right.
Did
So-
we skip over 4L, Eddie? I see something that you had up there previously that said 4L, after the architectural standard, something about, go back. Or 4I, 406C, whatever that is. Did we discuss that?
Let's see here.
I think, as I'm looking at it, it had something to do with, I don't know, with signs or where you can place things on a lot. Oh, outside structures it was. Something to do with where you can put a extraneous structure.
Yep. So let's see here. I'll pull that up really quick here.
1905.
Yeah, 1905-01, it was,
Yeah, so 406C is yard locations for accessory uses.
yeah,
So what that is, it's a cross-reference to Pierce Township's regs, where we're basically saying our accessory structures in Amelia need to comply with the standards that Pierce has on the books.
all right, no big deal. I just, yeah, so we're we're good with that, right, everybody?
Yep.
I'm looking at that table now, and basically you're saying that that will be the new table?
Yep. Yeah, because the way
Okay.
that, yeah, exactly. It,
Does
some
that,
of
without
these-
me looking, does that? Hello, I just lost you.
Yep. So
I
the
still got everything.
1905, if you can see that, it's kind of hard to, that's the residential accessory uses table. And so that reference basically, we have a similar reference in the Pierce Township regs that basically say, look, accessory structures can be located in this yard. They, a pool has to be in the rear and all, vice versa, all that sort of stuff. So,
Is there much difference, Eddie, between theirs and ours without me going back to look at it again?
There's some. There's
Okay.
some. A lot of it, though, to be honest with you, it's a lot of clarification. So everyone in this meeting could look at some of their existing accessory, or we'll just say their regulations for putting a deck on the back of the house. We could all look at their regs as they stand now in Amelia, and we would all come up with some different interpretation. Our regulations are a little bit more, I don't want to say lenient. Maybe they're a little more practical. It seems like our regs might have been updated a little bit more recently to accommodate, some various different, sorts of developments.
Yeah. Okay.
And I just want to let everybody know as well, there's someone named Lee who entered the meeting. So I'm going to do a quick rundown of the directions in case they want to speak or be heard. So, Lee, I don't know if you can hear us, but if you want to raise your hand on your participant panel, you can press raise hand, and that's if you want to speak. And otherwise, if you're just, if you're on the phone, you just press *9 and that will raise your hand as well. But I don't know, Mr. Schuler, if you want me to unmute Lee and see if they, I don't know if they're having trouble, but I can
Yeah,
unmute.
go ahead and unmute Lee and see if Lee wants to, at this point, let us know he's with us anyway while you're going through your presentation.
Okay.
Hello, folks. My name is Leroy Miller, and I'm just letting you know that I'm here and interested in the meeting. And I don't have anything to add or participate in any way. I just want to listen and see what's going on.
Thanks for joining us, Lee.
Thank you.
Eddie, you want to go over just very briefly for Lee what we're doing? Just not go through all the items again, but what even the purpose of the hearing is tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. So this meeting tonight, we're essentially midway through the process of adopting the land use plan, text amendments, and map amendments to incorporate the Village of Amelia into the Pierce Township zoning framework. In April, we received a positive affirmation, a recommended approval from the Clermont County Planning Commission to adopt the regulations. So this is our public hearing to consider the recommendation for approval and to make, to either approve, deny, or amend the proposal and forward it to the Board of Trustees for their public hearing. So that's kind of the gist of it. And then the slide that we're on right now shows some of the major items that are in the zoning commission members' packets. So if you have any questions, please, by all means, let us know, and we're happy to have you.
Thank you.
All right, go ahead, Eddie.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we covered 4.06C there, and we hit on some of these non-material changes. This slide here, we're just reiterating. I actually just kind of hit on most all of it. We're considering the Clermont County recommendation for approval. Just as a reminder, when you make your motion, please consider the architectural standards that we have discussed and the recommended changes as applicable. If you want to discuss the schedule of modifications in greater detail, let me know. And otherwise, staff is requesting a motion to approve, deny, or amend the materials as submitted.
Be-
Last thing that I,
Well-
the last thing that I had here is.
Stanley raised his hand, Eddie.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Stanley.
before you go on, when Jeff was talking earlier about the loss of legal non-conforming status, on page 3 of your summary, you mentioned that specifically. You said that you're proposing to use the existing Amelia text as it relates to the loss of legal non-conforming use. Okay, and now you said that just for signs, but why didn't you make the same statement about non-conforming use of a building, you know, as Jeff had mentioned?
I want to make sure I'm looking at the same, what do you,
You know, it was on your addendum on page 3. You had a schedule of modification on page
Okay.
3 where you're talking about about signs, temporary signs. You know, you
You're
mentioned,
talking item C, Stan?
yeah, item C. I mean, you did that specifically for the signs, which to all intents and purposes are negligible. Do we not want to make the same comment for a building in the general district like Jeff was talking about?
yeah, so I see what you're saying. So signage, it's a little weird. Signage we have our own regulation. We have separate regulations for non-conforming signage.
Right.
And then we have another section that pertains to non-conforming structures and uses in our regulations. So that's why there's a little bit of a difference here. If I recall, let me see here. Staff is proposing to use the existing Amelia text as relates to the mass.
Because there's quite a big difference in that on the signs. We
Right,
said that they can go like
so
that for 2 years, for crying out loud, and they're saying
Yeah.
only 6 months. Maybe we ought to change ours.
yeah, so that's a great observation. Jay Stewart and I were discussing that, and where we ended up with it was we give 2 years, which we both agreed we're like, that might be a little lenient. Whereas Amelia, if they wanted to get rid of a sign that didn't comply, they said 6 months, and,
Right.
and it's over, it's done with. Well, we were trying to just limit the amount of changes we were making to Pierce regulations,
Okay.
because we wanted to be Amelia focused. But this is a perfect forum. I mean, if you feel that you would like Pierce's to change, I mean, this is a time that we can do it. But we were trying to. That was one of those areas where we felt that we might be kicking a hornet's nest if we were to be making, you know what I mean? Like people get pretty worked up about signage when you change signage,
Right.
particularly in business areas. So we were trying to tread lightly on that. But
Okay.
I'm at your disposal, however you want me to proceed.
Okay. Okay, well, does everybody think that we should just leave it as it is temporarily, then go back and review ours? I mean, do you have a planned date, Eddie, for us to review the overall Pierce Township regulations?
I've got an answer that's a political one, and then I've got another one that
Okay.
is so generally it really is. So from when I started, what I've been doing is I've got an entire, just like a Word document of just things that I've run into that, well, we need to change that. Oh, we've got to talk about this. And, from May 2019 until now, of just items that I'm just tracking on. So,
Okay.
in one way, I'm always doing that. But as far as a date that's set in stone, we haven't set a date in stone yet to do this. My hope was that once we get this off, like on the books, it's going to really start freeing up some time. One of the other things I was working on was the TR district research
Right.
that you requested. So that was kind of another item, which is part of it. So I'm going to be bringing that TR district review before the Board of Trustees to see if they want to put the moratorium in place. at which point in time that TR district review is going to be coming before you guys for a very in-depth conversation about what we want to do with that district. So functionally, the answer to your question is, we're in the thick of it now as far as a full comprehensive review. I think we're bailing water at this point. I hate to say that, but it's just, we've I think that we're picking items that definitely are of strategic importance and kind of going full bore with them where we can. But again, if this body wants to direct me in another way, Mr. Stitt, yes.
I thought I'd just raise it. When I look at their Article 22 signs, it's one little sentence, where our Article 12 sign goes into a lot of discussion.
Right.
And I guess for the sake of this meeting, I might suggest that for the time being, we go with Eddie's, that we let the sign as is, but maybe we all know there's going to be more review coming down the road. It's not going to be as simple as wham, bam, here we go tonight and let's move on. And I think we may want to just table that sign and let it go as is, per staff recommendation, but just agree, if we feel that way, to revisit that later. Because as I look through the paper that Eddie, you gave us, the table of contents 17 through, and their Article 22 is signs, it doesn't say anything, where ours goes into grave description.
Right.
So maybe we just need to table that for a later time.
Okay. I can agree with that. I mean, as you probably recall, my biggest query was about the TR, and why don't we just make that go away? Which is, what I've already said. Once we get this approved, then the very first thing we should discuss after that, to me, is the TR. Why have we got that? Why don't we just have Pierce regulations over that district again?
Right, because quite honestly, there's no need for a TR district anymore. Once this, we're all the same. You're creating a third district within, or second district, when it's really not needed.
Right.
Are we ready for a motion?
Well, I've got that in my notes now. So I have the architectural regs, and then I've got in my notes to revisit the signage, particularly the non-conforming components of it. For the most part, the signage it's pretty much Pierce, but there are some very distinct differences, like you're alluding to. If you guys are done with the discussion on that item, I just have one last thing I wanted to hit on before we can move to the motion section, or move to open the public comment and that sort of thing. The slide that I have up right now, it's a slight revision I just want put into the record. It's just a specific clarification in yellow, where I said precisely what staff recommendation is, that this proposal is in conformance with ORC 519, as well as the Village Comp Plan and Pierce Township land use documents, and that the Zoning Commission consider recommending approval. And of course, I would amend that recommending approval with contingent upon amendments of our discussion. So I just wanted that to be in the record. And here is my formal request. But I actually do not have anything else at this time. So if we want to open the floor to public comment.
Lee, is there anything you'd like to say?
Discussion.
No, there's not. Thank you.
All right. Since Lee appears to be the only, and thank you for your attendance, Lee, the only member of the public, we'll close that. Do we have any additional discussion? Susan?
Actually, I had two things that I wasn't sure if we needed to change. 1803 says references the chapter on historical Amelia supplementary district regulations, but there's no chapter titled that. I think it's Article 20, but it's not titled the same way. So that
Does
could
it
create
says in
some confusion.
1803?
Yeah, 1803.
Okay.
20, Article 20 does not have the word supplementary in it.
Okay. All right. 1803, official schedule of district regulations adopted. So let's see.
Where are you? I'm
Historical
looking
Amelia
at,
supplementary district. Okay.
The table of contents, Jeff, on,
yeah, I'm looking at 1803
Yeah,
though.
And it, at the very end, in quotes, it says historical Amelia supplementary district regulations, and there's no section titled that right now. But I think it's Article 20.
It is. You're correct. That's a good catch. So I can add the word supplementary to Article 20 if you'd like, or I can modify the index, whichever is your preference.
You're saying Article 20 should read historical Amelia district regulations supplement?
Historical Amelia supplementary district regulations.
So basically it should read the same as 1803 verbiage.
Yes.
where's Article 20? I can't find Article 20.
It's like the whole, it's a huge section,
section.
actually.
Oh, of our zoning code, you mean? Or
No, the new Amelia code.
New Amelia code.
Okay. Yeah, you're right, Susan. It should say that.
Gosh, that's really impressive, Susan. That is fine. That's like a fine-tooth comb there.
Yeah.
I have another one of those too. So can you
Good.
tell I check people's work for a living?
You're an editor. You're an editor. We need an editor.
The other one is 18.10 under A1. It says Amelia still, and I think it should say Pierce Township to enhance property values, protect property rights, etc., and financial benefits to Pierce Township businesses and inhabitants.
Let's see here.
Where are you reading from, Susan?
And then one.
18.10.
Oh, okay, there. What, the thing that 1803 refers to, as you said, 20, where can I find the 20 to which you refer?
Although keep going, it's towards the end of the,
It's in the same packet of stuff.
yeah, it's in the same
Oh,
packet,
okay. All right.
like starts, I don't
Gotcha.
know, what
Alright.
page.
No, I'm moving along here. I'm turning page. All right. Now I see what you're saying. All right.
Susan, are you
Say
just saying
supplemental, I got you.
1810A1? Is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Which
Okay.
one now, Susan? Are you looking?
1810A1,
All right.
the
Okay.
purpose for the downtown overlay district. And it says benefits to Amelia at the end, and I think it should be benefits to Pierce Township.
I would agree with that. Do you guys, everybody else agree with that?
Yep.
Jeff, you're muted.
All right. Okay, I agree with Susan on that, but if you look at number 2, if we're going to take it that far, Susan, should we also drop the word toward the third word of village comprehensive plan, because it's no longer the adopted village comprehensive plan. If we're going to
But we
fine tune it.
are adopting the village comprehensive plan, at least temporarily. I looked at that too, but that was that
Okay.
other PDF that they sent is the huge village comprehensive plan.
So are we going
Yeah.
to call the end of, are you suggesting number 1, benefits to Pierce Township business and inhabitants?
Yep.
Yes.
Or do we want to, or is it better to call that benefits to the previous or
Historical.
the historical Amelia businesses inhabitants?
Yeah, that's a theme that we've been running through. We've been calling it the Amelia neighborhood, the historical Amelia neighborhood, that sort of thing. So this
So
is
is that a better term?
No, probably not, because eventually it should say Pierce Township. Because
Yes.
unless I'm wrong, at some stage, Amelia will quote unquote cease to exist.
But keep in mind, Stan, we're talking about the downtown overlay district here.
Right.
That's specific to the downtown overlay district, which is the old village of Amelia downtown. So maybe to Susan's point, or whoever said it, I apologize, maybe it should read to the benefits of the historical Amelia downtown businesses and inhabitants.
What if we just eliminate the word Amelia or historical downtown or Pierce and just say an increased economic and financial benefits to businesses and inhabitants?
That's one way to fix it.
Yeah.
I will say just the one thing I think would be, and maybe it's just my professional perspective on some of these things. What we've experienced here is really unique. And so one of the kind of a cool quirk that, you know, we've experienced something in Pierce that no one else has experienced, particularly to this degree. So I think that having some remnants left over, like, you know, Amelia artifacts, so to speak, referencing the Amelia neighborhood, that is I think that's an important thing to preserve if we can within reason. But I think the other part of it is as we study other areas in Pierce, and as we do more small area plans and more tactical planning throughout the township, you know, these distinctive neighborhoods and whatnot are going to become a bigger part of, I guess, the lexicon, if you will. You know, the general discussion. You know, there's going to be different node areas theoretically in different neighborhoods that are going to be, you know, over time identifiable, changing, all that sort of thing. So it might be something worth preserving, but again, I'm here to be overruled by whatever you guys want to do. So,
well, I think to your point, Eddie, unless anybody's got a major objection, I think the addition of the word historical in front of Amelia makes more sense.
Yeah.
So that we keep that theme throughout.
Okay.
Good with that?
Yeah, I'm good with that too.
All right.
Got another one, Susan?
Nope, that was it.
That's all the checker found?
Good job, Susan.
That's all you found out of all those pages. My God.
Well, I went through it before and already had other changes. I just went back through and looked for my changes to see if everything had been changed.
Okay.
Eddie, for purposes, I'm assuming that no one's listening to this, but for the minutes, someone will read through this. Laura will listen to this for the changes, I assume, for the verbiage.
Yeah, and I will. I'll make a specific point as well. That, you know, that this is a particular area worth, you know, having a cup of coffee by your side to listen to. So
Yeah.
I'll say between 50 and minute 60. That's kind of a key sort of discussion area as well. I try and track these discussion areas because they crop up.
Gotcha. Right. Are we ready for a motion? Because I got a lot of notes here that I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Jeff, I would love for you to do the motion.
Okay.
We're out of additional discussion. So at this point, Mr. Jeff Stitt, we'd like to have a motion from you with regard to what we've just been discussing at the hearing.
And just if you formally can just close the public hearing, I think
Close
that
it now before, all right, before the motion.
Yeah.
Close the hearing. All right.
Yep.
We have a motion to close the hearing.
I make a motion to close the hearing.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, so the hearing is now officially closed.
Okay.
And pursuant to our hearing, does anyone have a motion? And I recognize Mr. Jeff Stitt.
Yes, I will make a motion to approve the application Zebra Charlie 2020-02 to adopt the village comprehensive plan, including text and map amendments to the Pierce Township zoning resolution and zoning map with the changes being to 9.03 with verbiage to apply all of the old village to the existing Pierce, except for the to the Pierce architectural, except for the downtown area. Furthermore, we will also remove the word ordinance and replace it with the word resolution as recommended by staff. Also alter the verbiage in the table of contents of the village, the previous villages, I guess we're going to call it, contents of 18.10 under A purpose, under number 1, that we add the word historical so that the sentence reads to enhance property values, protect property rights, stabilize and improve downtown and adjacent neighborhoods, and increase economic and financial benefits to historical Amelia businesses and inhabitants. And then the last is to change the verbiage on Article 20. I gotta get to my note. That reads, help me, Susan. It reads
heading
historical Amelia district regulations.
Should read it, historical Amelia supplementary district regulations.
Thank you. I couldn't read my own daggone writing. Quit
And
laughing
what-
at me, Susan. I can see you.
Sorry.
The one last thing I wanted to add is just for the record, this meeting was properly advertised as well. So
Okay.
Oh,
and but I got your entire motion, Mr. Stitt. So I'm
Okay.
hoping. And then ultimately, this approval will go before the Board of Trustees should you vote to approve it.
We need a second.
I
I'll
second.
Susan,
Yes.
second. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing no discussion, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes to recommend the motion to, as stated by Mr. Stitt, to the trustees for their approval.
And before we do that, I would just again like to thank Eddie for all the effort he put into this, because even though he's been sort of stuck at home for a little while, it's a hell of a big effort to have gone through all this line by line and section by section to see how it matched up against our existing regulations. And I'd like to thank you for that effort.
I think you've done a hell of a job, Eddie.
Yeah, I second that compliment.
Thank you. I appreciate
would
that.
also like to thank Laura and Loretta for helping me operate this piece of equipment I'm sitting behind tonight. So I appreciate that on a personal basis. Do we have any, Eddie, really well done, and we'll see what the trustees do with it. Do we have any additional business to discuss tonight?
I do.
All right.
I
go
heard
ahead.
I heard a rumor that the senior center or whatever was being built on the property in Amelia is now bankrupt and ceased building. Is that true?
So what we have as far as publicly available information and all that sort of thing, and Loretta can probably speak to this as well. I'm sure she has a lot of good information she wants to share too. But the Reader's Digest version of it is it has been court ordered into receivership. The prior owner, who also ran multiple other similar facilities that were going concerns and they were operational, had we'll just call it, I guess, a $60 million plus sort of legal liability that has come into question and has forced them to kind of back out of the operation. So right now, the status of the project is that it is going into receivership, and the current receiver is doing their due diligence analysis and that sort of thing to determine, hey, we want to finish this project. We want to sell the property. We want to sell the property to someone else completely, all that sort of stuff. And this is all within the past week, maybe.
Hmm.
That it's
Interesting.
all kind of gone through.
That
But
is
there's I think there's some local news articles. I think it's WXPO maybe. The Inquirer might have some stuff on it as well. But if you do a Google search term on that, it'll come up, give you a little bit of an idea.
I
Has
don't
there
want to sound-
been,
I don't
has
want to
there-
sound like I'm dumb, but what property are we talking about?
the
The
old,
premier facility is the facility right next to Glen Mary.
Oh,
Between-
okay, that property there, okay. Now
Yep.
I know which one you're talking about.
has there been any movement by whoever to build the homes and all of that on the other section, Eddie?
Oh yeah, for the Glen Mary.
Yeah,
Yeah, we approved their construction plans for the single family dwelling portion are pretty much good to go.
okay,
They're-
but
they
but
are-
I haven't noticed any movement on it.
No.
They've got all their construction equipment out there, so they are clearing out trees, and they've been doing
Okay.
that for probably about a week now.
Hey, Eddie,
Okay.
can you bring up that map of Pierce Township and use your cursor and show me where you're talking about? Or is that,
Yep.
yeah, oh yeah. Where are you
It's,
talking about?
it's where the old greenhouse used to be up there with the creek that went under 125, Dick.
All right. Where's Chapel on this? Just so I can get my bearings on, or even Jenny Lind or the library or
Yep.
post office.
Okay. So Jenny Lind is right here.
Okay, so it's, oh, is that where like the lakes used to be, or there used to be lakes in there?
Yes,
Here's
it's
a
right
post-
across, it's right across from the memorial for the canine police,
All right,
that area, Dick.
Yep.
we were
It's-
talking about the fellow that came in here and was developing that into a subdivision of some sort.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's the I think they're
Good
called
lesson there.
Beaver Creek. It's the Mr. Joe and Ed Ferrugia are developing this particular parcel.
Uh-huh.
This parcel here that I'm pointing to, that is the premier parcel.
That's the part that went down, is in trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, good. When I drive by there, I'll check it out.
And for the rest of the group, before we came on, I asked Eddie about this. We had and I'm looking back at my notes and I can't find it. Back earlier this year, obviously, we had a gentleman or two gentlemen that came to us. They wanted to build a car repair shop in the old village Amelia on our side. It was up, oh Lordy.
Almost
was-
across from the United Methodist
Yes,
Church.
yes,
Yeah.
right there. And they had already started, and we had several concerns because their setbacks didn't meet ours, and there were several different things. And I think we gave them an escape on all of that type of thing. I noticed when I went past there just the other day, I could have sworn I saw a for sale sign on that lot. And I had asked Eddie if he had heard anything about that, and I don't. It just looked like maybe that had been abandoned and now they were trying to sell that lot. I don't know if anybody else saw it, but it could be an old sign. I do know that there's a power pole that was put in for a construction, but I haven't seen anything going on with that. So I just called to the group's attention since they did come before us, obviously before all the virus stuff.
Yeah, just to reiterate what Mr. Stitt and I spoke about. They obtained their zoning approval. They obviously went through this body, received approval, and then they submitted their zoning permit to our office, and we confirmed that it met all the moratorium exemption and the zoning commission conditions and everything. So I can follow up and see what their status is if they have been proceeding with the county and all that sort of thing.
Okay.
Oh, and I mentioned to Eddie, there is another 12 acres now for sale on Davis that's right next to that, what was it, 30-something acres where they were trying to put that huge apartment complex for sale, but they want a pretty penny. It's like 60,000 an acre, but it's flat with no high wire lines running through it.
Yeah, I've noticed that myself, Susan. I live over on Hopper Hill and I drive by that pretty much every weekday.
Where is that, Susan?
It's like right on the 90-degree, the first 90-degree turn.
Right.
Is that right there, basically under the power lines?
Yeah.
No, it's not,
No.
it's not under the power lines. It's a Maddox property.
I was gonna say, does it back up to Maddox or is
Yes,
it their
and it was
property?
one of the, I don't know if it's one of the children, and she doesn't want it, so she's selling
Okay.
it. She does not live local.
How many acres?
12.
Okay.
Part of that might have to do with the mother died in October.
Oh, Mrs. Maddox died?
Yeah, the one, the elderly lady with the white hair, sweet lady.
Really? I didn't know that. That's a shame.
I just found out from her daughter the other day because I stopped by there at the market to get stuff. Corn's
That's a
not in
shame.
yet, by the way, because of the frost we had in
Yeah,
April.
okay.
But we'll get corn in eventually. Anyway, yeah,
I
that's.
think they like divided it up is my understanding, because my brother lives almost across the street from them on Hopper Hill.
Okay. So Susan, this is not the one that we had a really elaborate application from a couple of years ago.
Yes, it's that one.
It's that lot that was.
Well, it's not that, it's next to that lot.
It's next to that, Stan.
Okay.
The one we,
Okay.
the one, yeah, that one was 18 acres with the power lines going through.
Yeah.
We've gone 2 separate PUDs on that.
Right.
Plans and stuff. That's been for sale. That lot's been for sale. That one I moved on Hopper Hill in 1977. It was for sale in 1977. So it's
Okay.
been for sale for 43 years.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, it doesn't mean hill of beans to this committee, but just out of curiosity, Susan, if you've got family over there, there's a home right there after you go past that 90-degree, right when you hit the crest of the hill. There's a house on the left as you're going towards 9 Mile that has a tree that the top was cut off that helps support the daggone power line. And the house always looks like it's abandoned. Do you know anything about that house? Do
So if
even
you're
know which
going
one I'm-
towards, you're going towards 9 Mile or coming from 9
I'm
Mile?
going towards 9 Mile from Hopper Hill.
Yeah, that one I don't know anything
Okay.
about. I know
It-
what
it-
you're
it-
talking about, but I don't know anything about that
Yeah,
one.
again, it looks like the tree supporting the power line. And the house always looks abandoned. I just wondered what the status, if you knew what that was.
Nope, do not know that one. Sorry.
All right.
Okay.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I.
Adjourned. Thank you for a wonderful meeting. Adjourned at 7:40.
Thank you very much.
Right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Eddie. Thanks, everybody. Thanks.
Thanks.
Thanks, Eddie, for all your work.
Bye.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Take
thanks,
care, guys.
Eddie. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.